So Kamala Harris had a CNN town hall the other night, and her best moment in that town hall was on the issue of Medicare for All. So she was asked about the issue of healthcare, and she said very simply, we need a Medicare for All system. It was flat. There was no hedging. There were no caveats. It was just, yeah, we need Medicare for All. And honestly, that's not what I was expecting from Kamala. Now, on other issues, there were a lot of platitudes and cliches, and I was live tweeting this town hall event, and my general takeaway is that overall, she's very Obama-esque or Bill Clinton-esque at a time when we need a radical. But her best answer was definitely on Medicare for All. Second best answer was on gun reform, where she said, I'd lock every politician in a room and show them autopsy photos of the kids who were massacred at Sandy Hook. I thought that was a strong answer, and she's for basic gun reforms. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Afterwards, she backpedaled from her support of Medicare for All. Why? Because Jake Tapper did a gotcha question right after he asked about Medicare for All. He said, well, hold on now. What if somebody likes their private insurance? Would you take away their private insurance? And her response was basically like, yeah, I would. Which is kind of badass. But the next day, she comes out there, oh, did I say that? What I meant to say was the sun was in my eyes. What happened was blah, 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 blah. Now, here's why Jake Tapper's question was a gotcha question, and it actually totally wasn't fair, and the framing was misleading. He was saying that under Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill, it abolishes private health insurance. That's actually not true. There are a million different ways to do Medicare for All systems or single-payer systems, but the way that's generally supported among lefties in the U.S. is have Medicare for All as the default, and then if somebody wants supplemental private insurance, they can get it. But the default is Medicare for All. Now, Kamala Harris, I think that she doesn't really know much about Medicare for All, to be honest. I think that she understands that politically she can't not support it and win the Democratic primary, so she has to support it. So she's saying she supports it. But her answer was just like a little weird. Like what she should have said in response to Jake Tapper's question was, Jake, that's a little bit of a misleading framing because the reality is under Bernie's Medicare for All bill, you still have the private insurance industry still exists, but it's supplemental care, and it becomes a much smaller percentage of the insurance market. And the single payer system, the default is Medicare for All, and everybody's covered. So that's what she should have said. She didn't say it. She kind of walked into Jake Tapper's trap and said like, yeah, abolish it. And then she had to backpedal from that. Now, fast forward to a couple days later, Debbie Wasserman Schultz goes on CNN to defend Kamala Harris on this point. But you're going to notice something here, and this is why we're doing this segment. You're going to notice a lot of weasel words used by Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I'm here to explain to you and to train you to fine-tune your bullshit meter. Because there's a lot of bullshit weasel words used by Democratic politicians where they try to trick you into thinking that they agree with you on very important, key, crucial issues to the left when they really don't. They believe in watered-down versions of those ideas that are nowhere near the original idea, okay? So here's Debbie Wasserman Schultz defending Kamala Harris on this point, doing a head fake as if she supports Medicare for All, but I'll explain how she doesn't, and I'll break it down for you as to what Debbie's doing here, but also what's so bullshit about the CNN host framing as well. Check it out.
Congresswoman, it's so great to have you here. And as you're seeing so many of these candidates from your party talking about Medicare for All, it's a position that was really popularized by Bernie Sanders in the last cycle. They're making these promises, but watching Senator Harris and her campaign now broadening out her openness to healthcare reform that doesn't necessarily eliminate private insurance companies. Do you worry that this is a sign that Democrats might be opening themselves up to some really big promises that they can't realistically keep?
No, on the contrary. I think you'll see, number one, we'll have a historic number of candidates who will compete for the Democratic nomination to get rid of, the most erratic prevaricator that we've ever had in the White House. And you'll see each and every one of them be for this litmus test. And that is that every one of them will be for making sure that we can expand access to quality, affordable health care to as many people as we can. Everyone, if that's possible. And you'll see, I think, different candidates take the position that there are multiple pathways to getting there. and that we need to do that as soon as and as comprehensively as possible. And you'll also see, equally as importantly, them defend the Affordable Care Act and the 20 million plus individuals in America who have quality, affordable health care now that didn't before, and prevent Donald Trump from taking that away from them.
Promising access to more affordable health care is one thing. Promising Medicare for all and promising to get rid of private insurers, which so much of the system is currently based on, is another thing. Are they over-promising by talking about a change that is that large, that seems very difficult to achieve?
See, I think we have to look past the surface level name for it. The moniker of what you call the concept, which we are all fully embracing, is that healthcare is a right and should not be treated as a privilege that is only available to those who can afford it. That is what Democrats are for. That's what you'll see every Democratic presidential candidate be for. And like you would expect, they will take different approaches to getting there. But, you know, the black and white choice of are you or are you not for Medicare for all, we are all for, and that's the litmus test that there should be, that I think every one of them will meet. We are all for making sure that everyone in America can get access to quality, affordable health care, and we need to all move forward together to ensure that that happens.
Okay, so listen, if you are not a political junkie who's been following these things for years, you can be forgiven for thinking, I don't see what the problem is there. I don't see what she said that was wrong. I don't see what she said that was misleading. It seems very straightforward. I'm going to walk you through it. So, very rarely do you hear Democratic politicians, with the exception of Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, some of the other Justice Democrats, maybe Tulsi Gabbard, Elizabeth Warren, very rarely do you hear a Democratic politician say, I support single-payer health care, or I support Medicare for all, full stop. That's rare. What they do say is what you just heard from Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Namely, well, really what's important is what we all agree to is that we expand access to quality, affordable care. Why did she choose those words specifically? Expand access to quality, affordable care. Why are you adding those words in there? Well, the answer is very simple. Those are weasel words that allow you to get out of, if when we get to that bridge and it's time to cross it to fight for Medicare for all, the fact that she was using this phrasing all along allows her to wiggle out of it and say, I never said I was going to go for that original Medicare for all bill. Because quality, affordable care means what? Well, we got to lower the cost. Well, what do you mean, but lower the cost in what sense? Lower the cost as in totally change the system and move towards a Medicare for all system where the government's the single insurer? Or lower the cost as in keep the framework of the system the same and lower the cost in terms of what you're paying to your private health insurer? Quality, affordable care, not free at the point of service. See, they can say that. She can say, I want free at the point of service, Medicare for all. She doesn't say that. Bernie says free at the point of service. AOC says free at the point of service. Debbie Wasserman Schultz did not. Quality, affordable care, expand access. What do you mean expand access? Well, this, again, a weasel word. We, the Democrats all want you to have access to health care. Everybody has access to health care. Everybody could go to the emergency room and get health care. That's access to health care. But does that mean you're not going to go bankrupt? No, you can still go bankrupt. Because we have a system where medical bills is one of the top causes of bankruptcy. So instead of saying, I'm for single payer, or I'm for Medicare for all, I'm for free at the point of service health care, it's, we need to expand access to quality, affordable care. Weasel words to the nth degree. Then notice, quick transition to, and she tries to slip it in there as if it's not even a transition, but ultimately the main thing is we all agree to defend the Affordable Care Act. Wait, what? No. Defending the Affordable Care Act is light years different from pushing for a Medicare for all system. Under the Affordable Care Act, we still have, at the low number, it was 20 million people who were uninsured. High number, 29 million now, but that's because Trump has been doing executive orders against it and screwing it over 9 ways to Sunday. But even best case scenario, it was 20 million people still uninsured, costs still rising. It had good provisions, of course it did. You can stay on your parents' health insurance until you're 26 years old. You know, you can, It mandates that health insurance companies have to spend more of their money on actual care and not just on overhead costs, protections for pre-existing conditions, so on and so forth, Medicaid expansion. It has good provisions. But defending the Affordable Care Act is way short of pushing for Medicare for all. And she lowers the bar casually to, well, we all agree we're going to defend the Affordable Care Act. That's the important thing. And then finally you hear, well, we all have different paths to get to the same conclusion. No. See, you have to understand what she means when she says that. Now, when I say, hey, I'll take any version of a single-payer system, what I'm saying is, hey, do you want the French system or do you want the UK system? So in other words, do you want public funding of public institutions? That's the UK system. Or do you want public funding, tax money, to private institutions? That's the French system. That's a debate to be had about what kind of single-payer system do you want, because they're both single-payer systems, both fully funded by tax dollars. When she says that we're different paths to the same conclusion, what she means is, and I know this because I've seen the bills proposed by the Democrats, what she means is, well, hey, some people want the Medicare for All system, Bernie's bill. Some people want Medicare expansion, which is lower the age to get into Medicare to 55. Some people want a public option, which is not Medicare for All at all. So that's what she means when she says it. They come up with all these goofy half-measure ideas to split the difference between Medicare for All and the current system, and then when she says, well, we're all trying to different paths to get to the same place, what she means is any of those healthcare reforms I'll take. Medicare expansion, public option, that's fine. And what we're here to say is, no, that's not fine. Now, finally, I want to say this. So those are her weasel words, and you'll notice this. If you follow politics closely, you'll see this. I'll give you one more example of weasel words. It's the classic example. Hillary Clinton used to say during the 2016 election, we need to get dark, unaccountable money out of politics. Now, when you hear that, when most people hear that, they go, yeah, I agree with that. That makes sense. Let's get dark, unaccountable money out of politics. Ask yourself, why didn't she just say, we have to get money out of politics? Why did she add the words dark and unaccountable? The answer is simple. Because when you say get dark, unaccountable money out of politics, what that means is, I'm in favor of more transparency. So I don't want to stop the bribery. I want to pass a law that mandates that they have to disclose who the donors to the politicians are. So I don't want to stop the bribery. I just want everybody to know who's bribing the politicians. That's what they mean. Get the dark money out of politics means light money is fine. If we know who's buying the politicians, totally fine. Get the unaccountable money. More transparency. Let's see who's buying the politicians. There's a reason she doesn't say get money out of politics, because she doesn't support getting money out of politics, full stop. She only supports more transparency so you know who's buying the politicians. If you listen closely, they will always tell you what they really believe. And what they really believe is not what you really believe. They want to try to make you think they believe what you really believe, getting money out of politics, but they don't. So that's why they have to throw in those weasel words. Okay, now, final point is the CNN host. In a system that's functioning and in a system that makes sense, you'd have people in the media being adversarial to centers of power. So what that means is people in the media should be ruthlessly questioning the current system. The health insurance companies, they're making billions of dollars. At the same time, we have damn near 30 million people uninsured, tens of thousands of people dying because they don't have health care. We have all these problems. We have medical bankruptcy is one of the top causes of bankruptcy. In a system that made sense, the media would be questioning that endlessly, like I did with the stories that we covered on the last show, where you had a woman being arrested for fraud because she let a student use her health care because he needed help. You had a kid almost die because a health insurance company changed insulin and then didn't give them the option. So that a real journalist questions those things, questions the power centers. Notice what the CNN host does here. The framing of her question is to defend the status quo. She says, well, listen, you guys are pushing for Medicare for all. Why do you think you guys are maybe doing promises that you can't keep? So instead of questioning the powers that be, you're questioning the people who are fighting the powers that be, who want to get away from this fucked up system and help people with a Medicare for All system and do the right thing. So she flipped her responsibility. Her real responsibility is hold people in power accountable. Nobody in this country is more powerful than the big pharma lobby, than the for-profit health insurance lobby, than the politicians who are bought by those lobbies. But instead of questioning them, she flips it and she questions the one position which is actually speaking truth to power and trying to take those powerful lobbies on. So inverted her responsibility, and you'll see this all the time. Everything is framed from the perspective of the establishment. Aren't you being unrealistic by saying we should have Medicare for all? I think you're being unrealistic. You know, aren't you being pie in the sky and an anti-war hippie for saying we shouldn't back an illegal coup in Venezuela? I think you're being pie in the sky and like a hippie. So they invert their responsibility. They defend the powerful as opposed to taking on the powerful. And by the way, I shouldn't be complaining because this is why people watch our show and this is why there's a rise of new media and this is why people hate CNN.